Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to walk you through how you would debug a program in Eclipse, a C program in Eclipse. We are going to start with the CS300 test project that we built during class, which you all should have working. And if you notice, we'll have an include file called example.h, which has nothing but a printme function prototype. And then I have the example.c, which includes the implementation of that printme function, which just prints out a passed-in integer. And then the driver.c, which creates a variable and then passes that variable into the printme function from the example. Okay, and then we have the make file, which I talked through. And in order to just remind you how to build a project, what we do is you right click on the project itself and you can say build project. And what that will do is it will run the make file. So if you run build project, you'll notice down in the bottom here that it will have run the command. Well, in this case, there was nothing to run because it already built it, but it basically will run the make file. Okay. To run the program, you can right click on the project itself and you just do run as local C++ application, and in the console you'll see your output right there, which in this case just says the number is 35 because that's the value that I've passed in. Now, the real part, which is going to be very helpful for you, is the debugging. Okay, so you can use a breakpoint just like we have done normally in the past, which is you just double click inside of this line over here. So before the line numbers, you can add breakpoints wherever you want them or take them away. And if you don't have any breakpoints and you debug, you're going to always start just at the top of main. Okay. Now remember, in order to use the debugger, when you actually in your make file in your GCC, you need to set the -g option. Okay. But that has already been set for me. I do want to show you that here, after we have the include in the source files, if you open the bin file, you'll notice that it did create the .o files that we talked about. So we have a driver.o and an example.o, right? And so in this case, what we're running is the actual application, so the driver.o. And what we're going to do now is debug it. So we're going to debug it as a local C or C++ application. The first thing that's going to come up is this perspective switch. So it's going to confirm that you want to do that. And the reason it does this is because we are debugging, so it's going to change just how the windows look. Okay, so you can remember the decision if you want. I'll leave it for now. And we're just going to say, fine, let's switch the perspective. And what you'll see straight away is it's changed things a little bit. So instead of seeing the project explorer like we saw before, right? Instead what we have here is we have the functions, right, where we are. So in this case, we're in main, which is in the file driver.c at location or at line number 13. I apologize. And then it also says on the right-hand side here, a variable that we have a variable named x. We have a variable named value, which the type is int, and it has a value 0 because we haven't got anywhere yet, right? Because if you notice, this blue arrow here tells you where the current pointer is, where we currently are as we're walking through the code. Okay, so that's a kind of portion what we can see down here. Oh, you can hover over, variables too, right? So value right now doesn't exist in this location, but and it can hover over here, right? So don't worry about that. But if you look up here at the top, you'll see that they should be familiar to you. They're very similar to what you saw in C++ and in CS250, but there's a step into button, which will step into a function. There's a step over, which will execute a line of code, and there's a step out, a step return, or step out is what it was called in Visual Studio, which will step out. And then you can also play, resume, run the whole thing, or you can stop, terminate the program. Okay, so right now where we are, we've got, we haven't actually executed any line of code. The next line that's going to be executed is this line over here, right? And so what we should be keeping our eye on is the value of the variable, right? So we're going to see if that's going to change as I step over that line of code. So as I step over that line of code, you'll notice, yes, of course it did change, and it became 35, okay? The next thing that I want to demonstrate is that now we're at a function, can we step into that function? So this function, if you remember, is actually located in example.c. And so because I want to step into there, I'm going to click on the Step Into button, and it's going to follow, right? It's following it, and we've moved from the function main, and so now we're in the function print me, and you can see that it's saying that we're at line 13 of the function print me, right? And we can see from here on the left that main has called the function print me, right? And so if we ever step out, if I decide to just leave step return out of the print me, it will finish executing all of the lines of code in print me and return back to main, right? But at least over here, you can start to see the order of the functions that are being called, and you start writing lots of code, you'll see that this can get quite deep because you have a function calling another function calling another function, okay? But back to our instruction pointer where we are. So right now, here we are, we're at the printf, we haven't executed it. We assume that when we do execute that function, where we do run that code, that inside of the console over here, some output will appear. That's our hope. So what we're going to do is go back to our step over, and of course you can use F6, but if you step over that line of code, there we have it. The number is 35. It executed the line of code, and I can step over again and return back to the main function, and then if I step over the return 0, it should finish executing all of my code, and it's finished, right? So that everything is finished, the code ran and completed, the number is 35, okay? Here it's just getting into some code that's not yours, so don't worry about that. And we can just hit the stop debug, and it says we've terminated our program. So I expect you're going to use the debugger a lot. It really helps in all of data structures to walk through things. And if you ever come to me for help, I will have you step through the debugger with me to help you find any bugs in your code. Sam will do the same in tutoring. Now, once you've finished, just a couple of other things to note. We're still in the debug perspective, right? Where we're seeing sort of the variables over here on the right, and then over here on the left, we're seeing the function calls. So what you should do is click on the C++ perspective to send us back to the main area, okay? And if for whatever reason you end up rearranging your windows so that it's not how it was originally, and you don't like it, you can always go into Window, Perspective, and Reset Perspective, and it will reset everything back to how it was originally, because we've all, done things that we didn't intend to do. So these are just kind of cool little tidbits. So make sure you use debugging. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.